Hello all, welcome back. I hope you all had a rejuvenating and inspiring breakout experience. And I hope you are also able to take care of some personal needs during our breakouts and break. So next, I would like to invite Ken Diebert to present the Ken Diebert Adjunct Faculty of the Year Award.
Okay, can you hear me?
There you are. Okay.
There we are. Am I on? Hello.
Yes, you're on. You can feel free to start sharing.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Ken Diebert, and this year's award recipient came to American River in 1980 as a student, taking a few units so she could get a job, and has now worked at ARC for over 45 semesters. According to her colleagues, she understands the challenges our students face and make sure her class content is culturally relevant to their own lives. During the COVID-19 shutdown, she really stepped up to the plate, offering to help other faculty transition to online teaching and provide many helpful resources. In the words of one of her students, quote, "She is the reason I continue with my major. I had been in a pause in my education, but after taking courses with her, she inspired me to continue and to believe in myself as well as follow my dreams. I cannot explain my gratitude towards her and how she has been my inspiration and role model. One day, I hope I can change students' lives like she changed mine." End of quote. So will you all please join me in congratulating Michelle Saluzzo of Childhood Education Department as the 2020 Adjunct of the Year. So thank you very much and appreciate being with you.
Hi. Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Welcome, good people. Welcome to my space. I am so grateful to be here today. And I'm nervous. I'm shaking. I have to stand up. You can't see me. So I'm going to stand up because that's what I do. I read on my business card that I am an adjunct professor. When our students arrive, my opening to them is college will change your life. Not saying good or bad, but it's going to change your life. It is our decisions, not conditions, even when times are so critical and urgent that move our life's wheel. I am honored by the work and words of you, Professor Ken. I remember you and I thank you. My privilege has been expanded through opportunity to create learning at library rooms, in the grass field, to our local women's prison. I have shared experience. I have been provided with the opportunity to represent American River College, Los Rios District, and Yuba District as a freeway flyer. Experience, opportunity equals education. Thank you, American River College. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Michelle, for all of the work that you all do for our students. Exceptional work.
Thank you, Scott. Bye.
We all have the tools we need in order to meet the urgency of this moment, of this time. The path forward is not easy, but it can be made easier through our commitment to supporting our students, supporting our colleagues, and supporting ourselves. Sorry, one second. And supporting ourselves by working toward being the best version of ourselves in order to reach those goals that are so deeply embedded in our mission and vision. to transform the educational experience for our students and employees by being a robust, equitable, and inclusive institution for all. We are all balancing and holding a lot. We've shared ideas and perspectives on how to put students first, and I hope we all leave with at least one idea, one thought, or one concept that we can implement today to improve the experiences of our students. As Thomas said earlier, no one has to do everything, but everyone has to do something. And now I want to turn it over to our district, Los Rios Community College District Board President, Dustin Johnson, and our Chancellor, Brian King, to share their messages. Just 1 second.
Let's see.
Hi, Dustin. Can you hear us?
There he is. One second, everyone. Sorry for the... There we are. We can see you, Dustin. Oh, we can't hear you though.
On behalf of the whole board, I'd like to say how happy I am to be here with American River College, helping the faculty and staff today kick off what will undoubtedly be an atypical or unusual fall semester in the college's history. Convocation is usually an exciting time filled with optimism and enthusiasm. This year, of course, those are tempered with some uncertainty and trepidation about our public health situation and the resulting or expected budget crisis as a result of that, as well as a renewed sense of urgency to address the systemic barriers that so many of our students face in their daily lives. As discussed by the DI teams, I was very excited to hear those presentations. Thank you very much for those. I'm looking forward to hearing from the future teams, the disability team, LGBTQ, and the API team coming up. Let's see. In these complex times, my colleagues and I on the Los Rios board couldn't be more proud of the creativity and flexibility you all have showed in our transition to remote operations and online learning. Pressed into action by circumstances beyond our control, you have all risen to the occasion. We know that you have never lost sight of what is in the best interest of our students, particularly those who need our support the most, as we try to find the best possible solutions among decidedly imperfect options. Now we start the fall faced with the hard truth that what we thought or hoped would be a short-term move to online teaching and remote operations may be our reality for some time into the future. I cannot tell you how encouraging it is to see that in spite of the spirit of these changes, the spirit of innovation and the focus on equity and inclusion is very much alive at our colleges. That commitment is more important now than ever before. And as we navigate all of this in our work for students, I know that all of you are trying to manage the same dynamics in your personal lives. Many of you are caring for school-age children or elderly loved ones, feeling anxious about health and well-being of yourself, friends, and family, or just exhausted physically and emotionally. I know that diving into a new way to serve students amid all of that is not easy, and we appreciate everything you're doing to make it work for our students and for one another. My fellow trustees and I are incredibly proud of all of you, and it is obvious that throughout our colleges, we are accelerating our work to serve students even in spite of our once-in-a-lifetime challenges. When all of that is said and done, I am confident that we will come out of this crisis stronger as an organization and more resolute in our commitment to serving students who need us the most. In a moment, it will be my pleasure to introduce our Chancellor, Brian King. But first, on behalf of my colleagues on the board, I'd like to express my appreciation and gratitude to President Green, who is leading his final convocation today as president of American River College. Thomas, we thank you for your years of service, for your unwavering commitment to our students and community, and the thoughtfulness and creativity that you brought to your work each and every day. You will be greatly missed. And something else I would like to add, as a board member, I like to say, I don't have one favorite college, I have 4 favorite colleges. Although I do have a special connection to American River College, as some of you may know, I was a student there over 20 years ago and was the student body president for a year during my time there, and served as student trustee from American River College on the Los Rios board back then as well. So thank you. Let's now, I'd like to introduce Chancellor King. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Trustee Johnson. And Dustin shared his background at ARC and how he has been a student government president, a student trustee, now a member of the Board of Trustees. And I just want to say for a moment what an inspiration Dustin has been in recent months, that he's had a major health crisis that started before the pandemic and continued into it, and has just had a tremendous attitude and has been an inspiration, and also has a new son. He has a new baby, Milo, who has been born in the pandemic. So Dustin, so much appreciate you, and we're fortunate to have an outstanding board of trustees. In addition to Dustin, we have other trustees who are joining this first ever Zoom convocation. And today I'm going to talk about moments that change everything. And the great leadership provided by Dustin and our board is so crucial in navigating these moments. All of us have had moments in our lives when we knew that something really, really important had just happened. And after that moment, you know that things will never be the way they were before that moment. Everything has changed. Some of these moments are unexpected, some are the result of careful planning. Some of the moments give us a completely new perspective on something we thought we already understood. Some moments are painful and stressful, and some of these life-changing moments are joyous. I want you to think for a few seconds about those moments in your life. A couple moments in my life come to mind when I realized that everything had changed. One of those moments came for me half a lifetime ago in March of 1992. I heard my doctor say 3 words that were totally unexpected and devastating. You have cancer. I will never forget the fear, the uncertainty, and the despair I felt at that moment. Another moment comes to mind about 7 years later in July of 1999. That was when I put my newborn daughter in a car seat for the first time, leaving the hospital after her birth. It was so humbling to realize that this tiny person was so completely dependent for her growth and survival. I know every one of you have had similar moments in your lives, moments that have shaped you and made you who you are, moments when you were faced with a choice and had to decide what you were going to do next. Now, every few years, one of those life-changing moments is a shared experience. Some of us barely remember when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon in July of 1969. All of us remember the shock when the Twin Towers fell on September 11th, 2001. And the unforgettable historic moment when Barack Obama was elected president on November 4th, 2008. Most of the time, years separate those life-changing moments we share together, but the last several months have been far from normal. It is sometimes a cliche to say that something is unprecedented, but 2 shared life-changing moments I'm going to talk about today happened less than 3 months apart. Both moments have changed the future of American River College, Los Rios, the future of California, and the future of the United States. And a third moment is coming later this year that will also impact us all. Now, the first shared moment happened in March on Friday the 13th. Many consider that to be the tipping point with regards to the worldwide response to the COVID-19 pandemic. That was also the day we decided together, in response to the COVID-19 virus, that Los Rios was going to make an immediate transition to remote operations. Amazingly, together we made the transition to remote operations less than 1 week later on Wednesday, March 18th. Now, looking back, we could not have realized back in March the depth of the changes we were making together in response to the pandemic. We thought many of the changes were short-term and temporary, and now, though we long for a return to face-to-face instruction and other interactions, we understand that the changes we have made together will last through this fall semester and likely will continue into the beginning of 2021. At this point, we are preparing for a spring semester that will be more like this unusual fall semester than a normal term. Honestly, we recognize that some of the changes we have made in response to the pandemic were long overdue. Critics of higher education sometimes accuse us of being bound by tradition and unable to make needed changes without years of study and committee meetings. To those critics, we have demonstrated since March 13th that we can make hard decisions quickly and without sacrificing collaboration and collegial consultation with stakeholders across our colleges. I am reminded of a quote by the great poet Langston Hughes: "I have discovered in life that there are ways of getting almost anywhere you want to go, if you really want to go." So a crisis doesn't build the culture of an organization, but it certainly does reveal the culture. Many of you know how hard Thomas and our 4 college presidents, the presidents of our collective bargaining units, and our stakeholder group and Senate leaders have worked through this summer, and many, many others have worked hard through the summer. I encourage you to take a moment to thank the leaders who represent you when you have a moment. Together, we have made more difficult choices in the last 6 months than we probably did in the previous 5 years or more combined. Questions like, should we offer any face-to-face instruction for the fall semester? Or how do we reduce our budget in response to the economic devastation caused by the pandemic? How do we provide broadband access and laptop computers to students? Now, the convergence of all of these extraordinary decisions with the new budget crisis has created the opportunity and indeed the necessity that we all work together in ways that we have not before. The second shared moment happened a couple of months into the pandemic on May 25th, 2020. The murder of George Floyd, sadly, was not unprecedented, but the reaction to his murder was something new. Those excruciating, unbearable moments captured by cell phone video galvanized an understanding that a chasm exists between what our nation states as its values and the reality of the lived experience for Black and African Americans in this country. The murders of Ahmaud Arbery on February 23rd and Breonna Taylor on March 13th could no longer be swept under the rug after the almost universal revulsion to George Floyd's death. So in a little more than 2 months, we all experienced two life-changing moments together. First, a worldwide pandemic, then an unprecedented movement for social justice. Both of these moments have shined a bright light on inequalities and racism in the United States. Both of these moments have presented challenges and opportunities for the Los Rios colleges too. We all know that saying things like thoughts and prayers and other words that have often been used in the past are beyond inadequate. We know that this moment calls for action and a willingness to be courageous in changing the systems that have resulted in unacceptable outcomes that have been accepted for far too long. So this has been a time of incredible activity and action, and the energy of the summer is going to carry over into the fall semester that begins Saturday for online courses. I want to share with you 3 areas where a great deal of work has taken place during the summer months. First, with respect to law enforcement, as you know, Los Rios has its own police department. Even before the tragic deaths of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and George Floyd, LRPD Police Chief Larry Savage and Vice Chancellor Mario Rodriguez were leading important efforts to improve and reform our police department as part of a larger effort to end police violence in America. Some of you have read about Campaign Zero, a national effort to reduce death and violence resulting from interactions with police. Chief Savage and the LRPD are committed to the policy solutions outlined by Campaign Zero, and we all have a shared interest in making sure that our colleges are safe and welcoming places for all of our students, regardless of race or ethnicity. Second, the Los Rios colleges offer a variety of public safety programs, including administration of justice and peace officer standard and training programs, referred to as post-training. As a result, we have an extraordinary opportunity and a responsibility to shape the future of law enforcement in our region and throughout our state. I'd like to thank our faculty and staff who rolled up their sleeves this summer to explore how we can be a positive influence on the hundreds and thousands of officers who have or will be a part of the educational programs at our colleges. We believe that the impact our faculty have on aspiring law enforcement officers can have a positive effect in changing the culture that too often exists within some law enforcement agencies. So the first 2 important efforts underway at Los Rios involve law enforcement and public safety. These efforts are very important, and the right people are engaged and involved and committed to fundamental improvements in both LRPD and our public safety educational programs. The focus on law enforcement and public safety involves a relatively small number of faculty, staff, and administrators directly. And the third area of focus involves every single one of you at ARC and across the Los Rios colleges. Together, we are going to focus on improving the success of all of our students in the classroom with a focus on outcomes for Black and Latinx students this fall. 5 years ago, when we developed the Los Rios strategic plan together, our second goal was to ensure equitable academic achievement across all racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, and gender groups. So we have been saying the right thing for some time. The difficult question we have to ask ourselves in the wake of these recent catalytic moments is whether the actions we have taken in the last 5 years have been dynamic enough to be consistent with our lofty goals and values as stated in the strategic plan of 2015. Answering that question, and we all need to answer that question, will require courage and honesty. And I can't answer the question for anyone but me. And I have to tell you, I have not done everything I could have done in the last 5 years to make our shared stated goal of equitable academic achievement a reality. There have been times where I have been hesitant to share hard truths because I thought they might make people feel uncomfortable or even angry. As one example, I was aware of the overwhelming research that demonstrates that standardized placement tests result in underplacement of many of our students of color. But I sort of waited until state law required us to make changes to shift away from the approach we had used for decades. I regret that we and I didn't take action locally to move away from standardized placement tests sooner in support of our goal of equitable academic achievement. As the sociologist Michael Blakey said, a people who are truly strong should be able to look soberly at both their accomplishments and their problems, past and present. And I know the people at ARC are strong, and you recognize the accomplishments of ARC and also the challenges and the needs for change in the coming months. I also want to thank and acknowledge President Green and everyone at ARC for your commitment to making difficult changes on behalf of our students. I owe Thomas a special debt of gratitude for agreeing to serve as president of ARC through the end of this year. As most of you know, he planned to end his service at the end of June, but was willing to sacrifice and continue in these very difficult times because he thought that was the right thing to do for ARC. So grateful that Thomas has agreed to stay with us through the end of 2020. I want to share with you the process is well underway to select Thomas's successor. He certainly leaves big shoes to fill. But because of his efforts working with the faculty, staff, and administration at ARC, the next president will be able to hit the ground running and build on the strong foundation that has been established during the 6 years of Thomas's service. I know many of you have read How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. Kendi makes a powerful case it's not enough to be opposed to those who are explicitly, openly racist. The choice we have to make is between racism and anti-racism. The use of standardized placement tests is an example of the choice between racism and anti-racism. Because the standardized tests result in lower placement for students of color, Kendi would say there are two ways to interpret that policy. The racist view would argue that students of color did more poorly because of some inherent difference in their ability. The anti-racist would argue that the standardized testing policy must be changed because all students, regardless of race or ethnicity, have the ability to succeed in college courses. During this summer, Thomas and our 4 college presidents came together to establish 2 clear, focused student success targets for the fall and spring semesters. Now, these metrics are not new. Both were outlined as part of our collaborative approach to aligning with the statewide vision for success, the state chancellor's office ambitious goals for student success. The first target is to increase course completion with a focus on Black and Latinx students. The second target is to increase throughput for Black and Latinx students in transfer level math and English, which is just another way to say we want more students of color enrolling in and completing transfer level math and English. To establish the numerical targets, the presidents first looked at the data for each of our colleges. Across Los Rios, the results for our Black and Latinx students in the last 5 years are not what we know it will be. I know you have had opportunities during Flex Week to explore the data at a college level and at a department level. And I know many of the faculty at ARC are also looking at disaggregated data for your individual courses. I want you to mark next Friday, August 28th at 9 a.m. on your calendars to help us examine and unpack our data and the realities before us. We're holding a town meeting next Friday. All of you will receive a Zoom invitation. Hope you'll be able to participate live. If your work schedule does not allow you to participate live, we will also share a recording for you to review the town hall meeting later. Many of you have had an opportunity to meet Lasana Hotep and Cynthia Olivo. two wonderful colleagues who are going to help us translate our values of equity and inclusion into action as we address the differences that exist in student outcomes based on race and ethnicity, particularly for our Black and Latinx students. The town hall meeting on the 28th will be an opportunity for staff and faculty from across our 4 colleges to join together as we chart a new course that reflects the urgency of this moment. As I noted earlier, we are all also going to share a third moment in the coming months as the economic reality of the pandemic results in budget reductions from the state level that will likely be more severe than anything any of us have experienced in our entire careers. It is not clear exactly when that moment will happen. The state budget passed in July was a balanced budget in name, but in name only. The legislature closed a $54 billion deficit based on the impossible hope that Congress would provide enough pandemic relief to California that the state would not have to implement substantial cuts. Each year, Convocation is an important opportunity to share optimism, excitement about a new academic year. And I am very optimistic about the year ahead and excited about the work we're doing together. It is also my responsibility to share information about important statewide issues, including the budget. All of our college leaders and stakeholders have strongly encouraged me to be transparent and direct about the reality of our budget and the challenges we are going to face together. As we begin a new year, budget reductions have already had a very unfortunate impact on our adjunct faculty and temporary classified employees. As a result of state law and our collective bargaining agreements, we are required to reduce part-time employees first when our budget contracts. It is difficult to hear and hard to have to say, but the level of budget cuts we are facing in the coming months will likely be deep enough that every single one of us will be touched by them in one way or another. Many government organizations in the capital region, including the state, have already implemented furloughs and other drastic measures in response to economic and budget catastrophes. We hope working together we'll be able to avoid the most drastic measures. One feature of the California state budget approved by the legislature and signed by the governor is massive deferrals of payments to Los Rios and other community colleges. For those of you who did not experience the impact of the Great Recession on Los Rios in 2008, deferral is a fancy way that the state says they don't have money to pay us. As a result, we have to use our reserves and actually borrow money just to make payroll. If a deferral lasts through the fiscal year, as seems likely this year, it is actually a cut for the year in which it was implemented. It's too soon to know how deep the additional cuts are that we will have to make together in this fiscal year and in the fiscal year beginning in July of 2021. But we anticipate that these could be the largest reductions, both by percentage and in total dollars, in the more than 55-year history of the Los Rios Community College District. So we begin this year together in the aftermath of two moments that have changed everything. First, a worldwide pandemic that has resulted in a rapid transition to online education and remote services. Second, a reckoning involving racial injustice and systemic inequalities that was catalyzed by the murder of George Floyd. And we are preparing for a third moment we know will come in the months ahead as a result of drastic reductions in state funding caused by the pandemic. So without question, the year ahead will be incredibly challenging for all of us. The stress caused by the pandemic is continuing, and smoke from the fires and the terrible devastation throughout California, so many things are happening all at once. For some of us, the isolation and loneliness of living and working at home can be a tremendous challenge. For others of us, working at a home with children, either too young to be in school or beginning a school year with Zoom and parental supervision, presents entirely different challenges. And the same stresses of life that existed before the pandemic continue, often amplified in the series of cascading crises we have experienced together. Illness, surgery, birth and death, divorce and marriage have continued in the crucible of a global health crisis. Whatever your personal situation is, we all share a tremendous opportunity this year in spite of the challenges we face, to make changes for our students that will have lasting impacts this semester and for years to come. We have seen in the last 6 months how much stronger we are when we work together. We have demonstrated over and over again that we have the courage to find the way to do what needs to be done, even if we thought it was difficult or impossible before the pandemic. So much of what is going on in the world can make us feel like we don't have any control, but we do have direct control over how we work with students in our classrooms and in all of our interactions with students. We can choose to be anti-racist in our personal actions and in updating and improving our policies, both at ARC and across Los Rios. I encourage each of you to call me or email me at kingb@losrios.edu and share how I can help support you on this journey we're taking together. With that in mind, I want to close by asking you to think again about those personal moments you have experienced and the choices and decisions you made when you responded to the moment. It's hard for me to believe, but that newborn daughter I strapped into a car seat for the first time back in 1999 celebrated her 21st birthday last month. Very different birthday because of the pandemic. She's finishing her last year of college remotely, as are most California college students this year, and getting ready to begin a career as an elementary teacher. And strange as it may sound, but those of you who are cancer survivors understand, being diagnosed with cancer back in 1992 has had many positive impacts on my life in ways I could not have imagined in the dark days after my initial diagnosis. I appreciate that every single day is a gift, and that many of the distractions in life that can take up so much time often just are not that important in the big picture. Thank you again so much for all you have already done on behalf of our students in the difficult, challenging, unexpected, and unprecedented months since that moment on March 13th, when a new reality began. And most importantly, thanks for your courage that you are demonstrating to make hard, important changes for our students in the months and weeks ahead. So thank you for allowing me to share a few minutes with you during Convocation. And that concludes Fall Convocation at American River for the fall of 2020.
Thank you so much, Chancellor King. And I'm going to send you all off. The last thing I'd like to remind you all of is that there are going to be so many resources on the Inside ARC Convocation 2020 webpage. So go back to that webpage and review it, find those resources. I'll be adding the slideshow video that we showed in the beginning. A number of people have already reached out about that video, as well as a number of other one sheets and resources for everyone. Thank you all so much. And I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful fall semester. Thanks.